Life speaks. It speaks through struggles and success, through music and messages, the preconceived and the unexpected. Whether you are in the depths of the valley or in the midst of your mountaintop experience, everyone needs to be encouraged from time to time. You've tuned in to ALH Broadcasting, and this is Andrea L. Hines, your host for When Life Speaks. I'm glad you accepted the invitation to connect with us as we share stories of strength, testimonies of triumph, observations, and information meant to touch the heart and uplift the soul. There's something in this broadcast just for you, and if it's a blessing to your life, it just may be for someone else as well. So tag, share, invite someone, then turn down the volume of life and get ready to receive, so that when life speaks, you speak life. Good evening, good evening, good evening, and welcome everybody. Glad to have you coming on in this evening. You have tuned into When Life Speaks here on ALH Broadcasting, and I am your host, Andrea L. Hines, which I am sure, got something, got my nose is itching. That must mean something. But I am welcoming you to our program tonight. Glad to have you in the house. Very glad to have you stopping by. I see we got a couple of people who have popped in, but they are being shy tonight. They have not put their name in the comment section, but that's perfectly all right. I'm just glad to know that you are here. There you are. Pastor Kelvin Little is joining us tonight. Thank you, sir. Glad to have you here and glad for the information that you shared with us. This is going to be a fun program, I think, at least. It is going to be an interesting one, an insightful one. Hey there, Miss Ida. Good evening to you. Glad to have you in the house tonight and glad for the input that you gave us. This is going to be I think, a fun show and an insightful show as well. Last Sunday, I joined the community teaching under the leadership of my dear friend, Miss Tracy Mack. And the community is called Peace Place for Me. Peace Place for Me. And we gather every second and fourth Sunday morning at 7 a.m. And after the message this last Sunday, we were asked if we knew the meaning of our name. And if we didn't, then she gave us time to look it up and find out what our names meant. I don't know. I was surprised. I knew part of it. I knew a little bit about it, but I was really, really shocked to know some of the other attributes or personality traits that went along with my name that so hit home. Hey, Angie. Oh, that's our South Carolina connection coming in the house tonight. Glad to have you with us, Angie. And glad to have you participate also in this issue of what's in a name. Now, in Shakespeare, the story of Romeo and Juliet, the quote that we all remember is, "What's in a name? A rose by any other name would smell as sweet." And the inference there is that, whatever it happens to be that you are referring to remains the same, no matter what it is that you call it. And that it's just a label. It's a label that is put on something. But if you subscribe to a deeper meaning of that, your name is so very important. And the thought around it was that whenever you call someone by their name, you could be calling out the meaning that that name represents. And that's when it got really, really interesting. And I'm going to share. I sent it out to the village and asked them if they wanted to participate. And I'm going to share what some of those names meant, including my own, because it took me down a different path, a path that may have meant something. I can't imagine that when my parents named me, that they had all this background information. And I surely know that they didn't know exactly where I would be at this point in this stage of my life. So it was very, very interesting for me to find out what the personality traits are for both. We did our first name and also our middle name, what some of those traits are. And when I sent it out to the village, I asked them, tell me what your first name means, tell me what your middle name means, and tell me whether you think that your name suits you. And then I wanted to know if you were named after someone else, after someone of prominence or significance, a family member, or even spiritually, what your name means spiritually. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I think I'm going to start. Pastor Kelvin, since you were first in the house tonight, I think I'm going to start with you. Uh, Pastor Kelvin's first name, Kelvin, means basic unit of temperature in the International System of Units. It's the point in which all three, liquids, gases, and water, can coexist. In Hebrew, it means from the river. Now, if you all don't know Pastor Calvin was a pastor at the River Church in Durham, North Carolina. Isn't that something? Now, who would have known that? His parents sure wouldn't have known that, but God knew. God knew. He knew, and that is just. And he said, "You can't. You're not going to believe this." And when I saw it, I thought, "Wow, what in the world?" His middle name is James. James means supplanted or replacer, and it also has a Latin meaning of "May God protect." And he said, "It suits me kind of. I think I'm even tempered when all can exist and find peace." And I think you meant where all can exist and find peace. Um, his middle name, James, came from his grandfather, who was a church establishmentarianism, who mentarian, who founded several churches across North Carolina, of which all but one is still in existence. And the name James is also the middle name of four of his five boys. And I thought that was interesting. And Pastor Calvin, if you are still here and on the line, did you really know in the beginning that did you say to yourself, if I have sons, I'm going to make sure that I continue to carry on this tradition of making their middle name James? Were you even thinking about that? It's so interesting because when I look now, when my daughter was born, and even when I was born way back a long time ago, people used the baby books, the naming books, books of baby names for girls and baby names for boys. And I don't know that people even do that anymore. And it's interesting because if you look at the names of celebrities' children, and you look at the reels that they have where teachers are trying to pronounce the children's names, you know that somebody was really, really creative when they named their children. And I'm not sure that people do it based anymore on the meaning of the name or even think about the fact that whatever that name means, that's what you're calling forth from that person. Um, so when you look at Angie, I know Angie's on the line, so I'm going to catch her next. Let's see what Pastor Kelvin said. He said, not in the beginning, but I knew the character of the one who held the name and thought it would be an honor to keep it going. Absolutely, sir. Absolutely. that is a good thought and a good way to do it. And hopefully, it will continue to carry through generations just because of that, because of the character of the person who held the name. And I think that is awesome. We didn't so much hold the name in my family, but we were ALs until Jasmine was born. Jasmine broke that cycle. But my mother's name was Anna Louise. My name is Andrea Lorraine. Lynn's name is Audra Lynette. So we carried the initials, although we didn't carry the actual name. Um, and I think I'm finding that more and more as people sent in their information about their name, most everybody seems to feel that their name actually does suit them. Angie said her first name, Angela, means messenger of God or angelic. Her middle name, Denise, means grace, protection, deep connection with the divine. And her last name, she gave us her last name too, Cooks, someone who cooked or sold cooked meat, ran an eating house or an inn. And Oliphant is a hunter or warrior's horn. And she said, yes, I think my name suits me. If you know Angie at all, Angie is a prayer warrior. She is a woman of God. Deep connection with the divine, I think, fits her, absolutely fits her, just because of her relationship with God and her willingness to pray for others and teach others and come from the Word of God in the things that she does. So I think that suits her. Um, I saw Bernice pop in, and Bernice had sent us some information as well. See if here it is. I put it over here, Bernice. Bernice says the name Bernice is symbolic of triumph and achievement. Many challenges I have faced in life, I can see where I have triumphed over some things by the grace of God, and I can see the meaning of the name correlating with me in that aspect. I count it as being victorious when one overcomes the challenges of life that are being thrown at them when they didn't think they would be able to make it through them. But we did, and we're grateful. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed, Bernice. And I think that to know that your name means bringer of victory, and in the Hebrew, victory, and you can see that. You know what I think is really interesting, and Kelvin, Pastor Kelvin, if you can answer this. Actually, anybody can. But I think it is so interesting that we, our parents didn't know where we would be. Like my parents had no idea I would be where I am in my life right now, or that I would have gone through the things that I have gone through in my life. But yet, the name that was given to me suits me, I think, perfectly. How is it? How is it that we are able to have names that suit us so well, and yet our parents had no clue what we would turn out to be? Do you think it was just their desire that we would turn into or turn to or be a part of or come into what they had named us? Now, for me, it was interesting because I was not named when my parents first had me. As a matter of fact, my birth certificate, my original birth certificate, and do not laugh, but I was leaving the hospital with a birth certificate that said Baby Henson. My maiden name is Henson, after the explorer Matthew Henson. And I mean, when I would first got my passport and was looking for my birth certificate, I looked at that and thought, wait a minute, what in the world? What in the world? But it was several days after I was born that they named me. And they named me Andrea Lorraine. And when I tell you what that means, you will be able to say, Yep, I think I can see that. I think I can see that. Linda's name means pretty, and her um, middle name is from Scottish, Hebrew, and French origin, meaning God is gracious or gift from God. Interesting, interesting, Miss Linda. I can see that. I can see that. And yep, yep. I wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything with Angie or with Kelvin. Victoria, okay, Angie. Angie answered that question. Angie said, I think it was God given to our parents, whether they realized it or not. Clearly, that would have to be the right response, Angie, because although they didn't know, he certainly knew. He knew exactly what he wanted from our lives, and our names, interestingly enough, most of them do suggest that. Now, Victoria said the meaning of her first name is a feminine version of Victor and of the Latin origin meaning victorious or victory. Interesting. Her internet radio and TV show is Living Life Victoriously. Okay. Meaning of her middle name, primarily female name of American origin that means life. Life. That's her middle name. Wow. Do you think your name suits you? She says, yes, I do. It literally means victorious life. No accident. There you go. That my show is named Living Life Victoriously, which is how I strive to live. I asked her, were you named after someone in particular? She said, I was named after my aunt, Everett Victoria Henderson, whose birthday was August 19th. I came on August 18th, and my dad asked my mom if they could name me after his sister. My mom said she was not naming her baby Everett. That's a boy's name. So she took out the R and the E and named me Victoria Yvette. You might find some interesting facts or tidbits about your family when you look it up. Anybody out there who is listening today, have you taken the time to look up your name? I hope you have. And if you haven't, now's a good time to do it. It is really, really interesting to find out or to know what your name actually means, because you may not have done it before, and I think I know when I read your mind, you probably will not be surprised, but I was surprised about a lot of it. Let's talk about Ida. Ida, you're here tonight, so you can clear up some things or make some additions if you choose to. Her first name, Ida, is a feminine given name found in Europe and North America. It is popular, she said, in Scandinavian countries where it is pronounced Ida. The name Ida means industrious or prosperous, meaning labor or work. It also occurs as the Irish feminine given name Ide, Ide, which means godlike. All of us got some Jesus in these names. I like it. She said, I think that the name Ida fits me because I tend to finish what I start. I try to instill this in my children and grandchildren as well. I've also worked hard to achieve my goals. People that know me well get to see the loving, compassionate, sympathetic, and adventurous side of my nature. All of these qualities and more help me to be successful in my teaching profession, church youth ministry, and community services. Mm-hmm. She said Ida is not a popular name now. It was at one time. But she doesn't know of many or have met many people named Ida in her lifetime. She said she was named after her dad's sister. Her name was Ida Hillsfrule. And as far as she knows, she is the only descendant to share her name. Her middle name is Faye. The name Faye has origins in Latin and Britain. The name Faye is a beautiful and simple name that means, ready? Loyalty or belief. My. She said, my middle name fits me because it is simple. I am loyal to my family, my small circle of friends and acquaintances, and my faith or beliefs. My family, interesting, Ida. She said, my family calls me Faye. My nieces and nephews called me Faye, Aunt Faye, but my grandchildren and great grandchildren called me Grandma Ida. She says, no one else in her family shares the name Faye. Now, if we go by the premise that when we are calling our children, our friends by their name, that is what we are actually calling them, the meaning of their name. So if I were to call Ida and say Ida or Ida Faye, then I would be saying loyalty, or I would say belief, or as her first name says, prosperous. Every time I call her name, I would be saying prosperous. Every time I call her name, I would say loyalty, or I would say belief. Isn't that a good thing? Instead of calling them pork chop or poo or some of the other nicknames and things that we call our children. I was so glad when my nephew got to an age and he finally said, please call me by my name. He was a grown man and we were calling him a very kiddie nickname that he had for years, and we didn't even think about it. But boy, I tell you, it makes a difference what you're saying about your children. It makes a difference what you call them. At least that's what I share. That's what I share. Yep. Ida said she had never thought about that. Yeah, I was thinking about that when we had our community gathering. We were talking about that. Let's see, who else did we have that came in? I want to. I think I will go ahead and we talked about Kelvin, we talked about Victoria and Angie and Linda and Ida. And I think I will tell you now about me and my name and my daughter's name. My daughter's name is Audra, Audra. And I wish I could tell you that I went into the baby books and I looked up her name and I found this, wonderful name for her that I thought would suit her perfectly. But that's not the case. She's named after a character on a television show called The Big Valley. When I was carrying her, I watched that show every single day. And one of the characters' name was Audra Barkley. And I called her Lynn for short because the people, actually, my dad always got tongue tied trying to call her Audra and me Andrea. So we just ended up calling her Lynn. And interestingly enough, she met another Audra who asked her, did your mom happen to watch The Big Valley? Because apparently that's what her mother was thinking about as well when she named her. But I did find out that the name Audra means noble strength. Noble strength. And you know what? I see that. I see that in her. So I'm glad I named her that. And it also says it has roots in Lithuania and means storm. Storm. Now, I can see that and apply that in a number of ways to Lynn. But I think I like noble strength better than I like storm. And her middle name actually means, when you look it up in different places, but it means pretty. Pretty. So Audra Lynette is noble strength and pretty. So I did pretty good with her. I think I did good with her. Now for me, Andrea means strong, courageous, warrior, protector. It is a female derivative of Andrew of the 12. That's what the meaning said, Andrew of the 12. A person who has the strength to face challenges head on, the courage to overcome obstacles, resilient to bounce back from adversity. And in the realm of the spirit, the name Andrea represents a soul that is on a journey of self discovery and growth. My goodness. Does that fit? Absolutely. Absolutely. And as a matter of fact, when I finished my coaching certification, I had to do a workshop, and the workshop was titled Upload, all about the selfies. And we talked about those selfies of self talk and self image and self worth. And it was about self discovery. Imagine that. Imagine that. Self discovery and growth. Wow. My. Now, Lorraine means very pretty and distinguished, easygoing, good natured personality, appreciates the company of others to the point you don't like to be by yourself for very long. That's true. Very true. Let's see, moral, balanced, honest, and intellectual, wise, practical, with an appreciation of beauty. You always think before you act. You're frank, methodical, and believe in law, system, and order. Andrea Lorraine. Isn't that something? Isn't that something? When I think of all the things that I have gone through in my life, and it talks about Andrea being the courage to overcome obstacles. Wow. Methodical, believed in law, systems, and order. That would be me, hands down, hands down. Appreciation for of beauty. That would be me as well. Boy, I tell you, when I went through these and I looked at it and listened to the people in the community who were a part of this little exercise on Sunday, I was really amazed at how closely the things that were considered to be part of our various and sundry personalities, how on point those things were and how on target they were. I hope that you will, at some point in time, take the time to actually not only look up your name, your first name, and your middle name, but also think about the children and grandchildren, people in your family, and what they have been named and what those names mean. Because it is amazing to me how closely we fit, or how much our names are suited to us, and the way that we have grown and learned and lived, and the things that have happened in our lives. I really hope we will get back to the place of not just coming up with a bunch of letters to make up a name, and not just, I'll say, um, naming our children things that don't have the most positive meaning for them, but they're named that because of our parents felt at the time, or felt about their delivery, or felt about their dads, or whatever. But that we will get back to knowing, not knowing necessarily, but understanding that whatever I have named that child, when I call their name, that's what I am calling out. And when I call Lynette, when I call her that, when I put her out there, I'm not just saying, good morning, Lynette. I'm saying, good morning, pretty. Good morning, pretty. Good morning, strength. good morning. Whatever that. Let me see what else I have here. Courage. Good morning, courage. Linda also means pretty. Good morning, Jeanette. Jeanette. Good morning, Jeanette. Good morning, gift from God. Isn't that wonderful? Isn't that wonderful? I like it, and I thought that you would enjoy it too. Where you may not have known or may not have thought about it. When I look at the things that those reels about the teachers who can't even pronounce some of the names that are there, and just it is just a struggle for them. And I think to myself, do these parents have any idea beyond the sound of the name or beyond the what they are thinking about? I wonder if they have any thought of what you're really calling that child, what you're putting in the atmosphere every time you call their name. You may not have that school of thought. That may not be the way that it's thinking, that you are thinking. But if you are calling your children, if you take their name away and call them what their name means, hmm, I wonder what you're putting in the atmosphere about them. I wonder what you're really saying about them. I encourage you to take some time, if you haven't done it already, to tell your children, especially if you've got adult children, to ask them to look their name up. Ask them to look their name up and see what that name really means. And once you find out, then just start thinking, if I call them that, rather than calling them by the name that's on their birth certificate or the name that I gave them, would it make a difference? If every time their name was called, if their name was beautiful, if every time their name was called, you were actually saying, hello, beautiful. Good morning, beautiful. If their name meant wisdom, how about every time you said something to them, you said, hey, wisdom. Hey, wisdom. Are you coming by today, wisdom? Do you have time to talk today, wisdom? Just think of what a difference that would make. And sometimes, the only thing people know is they go by nicknames all their life. And sometimes they hate it. Sometimes they really, really hate it. And we don't even think about it. We don't even think about what we're doing. I look at kids sometimes, and I hear the parents and family members, oh yeah, take it to the family reunion, right? And they're saying, there's pork chop over there, or there's fat boy, there's fat girl, and give it no thought. No thought. But if we really thought that the names we gave people and the names that we called them and what we called them by, if we thought that we were really putting that in the atmosphere about them, that's what we were saying about them, that's what we are reinforcing about them, would it make a difference? I think it would. I think if we took what's in a name and took it into a deeper space, instead of saying it's just a label, it's just something we call you so we'll know who you are, but really, really said, you know what, I'm going to name this child something that means compassion, or I'm going to name them something that means kindness, or I'm going to name something that means valuable, or a treasure, or something like that. Just think of the difference you would make, because they would be growing up, even if they didn't understand it at the time. They would be growing up with names that let them know that they are valued, or that they are wise, or that they are beautiful. Think about that. Boy, that would be amazing. That would be amazing. Let's see what Bernice says, and let me see if I can put you on the screen, Bernice. Our name seems to characterize or set the tone for some part of our journey through our lives. Absolutely. It certainly does. Angie says, my name suits me. I thought it did too, and I was kind of surprised. Only because I didn't know all of those things. I had heard strong and I had heard those kinds of things before, but I had not heard, and I was not aware of some of the other things that my first and last name meant. Not my first and last name, but my first name and my middle name meant. And I'm going to just, become more cognizant of that. I know I didn't do all my grandchildren. I know Jasmine is Jasmine Karina Leanne. I'm going to look her up. And Christian is Christian Michael Anthony, and I'm going to look him up as well. But I am going to take the time and go through some names and see, boy, I wonder if this suits that individual. I wonder when I call their name now, will I think of what their name means and think about how I'm reinforcing that. Now, everybody doesn't believe in that, and everybody doesn't believe that to be true. But if you happen to, then you know how important it is to give that child a name that reinforces the best for them and the best for the journey for their life. And it could possibly make a change. It could possibly make a change. There are some subtle things that happen, and there are things that we do that we don't even realize the impact of them. And it's I went to a women's camp one year, and we were talking about different things that bother people. And one lady was talking about how she had lived being very ashamed of something because it was said to her when she was a child, and she was in her 50s, and she was still carrying that around. What if we carried around some good stuff? What if we carried around the meaning of our names that were strong and that made us triumphant and victorious and courageous and things like that? What if we carried that around? What a difference. What a difference it would make in the way that we carried ourselves, in the way that we responded to things. What's in a name? A lot. A lot. I hope you will give this some thought as you go through the rest of this week, or as you see and meet and greet your members of your family, or think about your grandkids and great grandkids, and make sure that your family knows the meanings that are associated with your name. I think it'll make a difference. I think it'll make a difference. We are surprised sometimes at the impact these kinds of things have on our lives and the lives of those we love. So that's it for tonight. We've done a little research and had a little fun figuring out what's in a name. And I hope that you will take it from this program and apply it a little bit. Let's see what Ida has to say. She says, I taught a child that was named, oh my goodness, it was named 95 South because he was born beside the highway on the way to New York. Well now, I don't have a comment on that. So if somebody else does, feel free to tell us what you think about that being named about the highway. I'm not I'm not sure I would be too fond of that, but they definitely won't ever forget him or her. I think it must have been a boy. I think it probably was a boy. But whoever it was, I think I'll just stop right there because I was getting ready to say something that might not be taken well. So, but you know what? It's not difficult to change your name if you want to. You can definitely do that. Angie says we see a lot of names like that where I work, and I think Angie works at a bank. Yeah, I just said it was a boy. I thought it might be. I thought it might be. Um, Pastor Kelvin said he had a thought, but he's gonna keep it to himself. I think I'm gonna. I think I'm gonna ride that train with you, Pastor Kelvin. I don't think I will. I don't think I'll comment on that one. But when you look at the names of celebrities' children, you gotta kind of wonder. You gotta kind of wonder. But as for me in my house, I know what I'm going to do, and I know what I've made the decision to do, and I hope some of you will as well. I hope you'll take the time to look up the names of some of your family members, particularly those that you see a lot of and that you call on a lot, and just think, what are the personality traits associated with the names that they've been given, and what have you really been calling them? Because you didn't know what those names meant. Think about it. We always have some food for thought when you come in to When Life Speaks, and this has been that kind of evening. I hope you have enjoyed it, though. I hope it has given you some things to think about. And I hope you found out something about your name that you did not know before that will put you in a good place and a good space and allow you to share something that is really, really uplifting to those who are in your family and those that you are around. And the derivatives of the name, that's interesting as well, because everything having to do with Lorraine and all had to do with French, the French origin. And when I was in school, everybody else was taking Spanish. And guess what I was taking? French. Go figure. Go figure. God always has a way. He shows us things even when he's not showing us things. And I am grateful for it and glad about it. So that's it for tonight. I thank you for coming in. I thank you for joining What's in a Name? What's in a Name? And I hope you had a little bit of fun finding out some things that you may not have known before. So I thank you for being here tonight. We are going to be back here next week. I think we're going to have our insurance guru on with us next week. But if so, I will let you know earlier in the week so that if you have any questions about insurance and things like that, that you will be able to send them in earlier. And she has quite a story herself. So we're going to do a little dual thing next week. And I hope you'll be able to join us. That's it for tonight. Again, thank you. Thank you. Come back. And when you do, be ready to turn down the volume of life. And when you do, you'll be ready to receive so that when life speaks, guess what? You'll speak life. That's it. Good night, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your week and your weekend. And hopefully I'll see you back here next week, Thursday night at 7 p.m. for another edition of When Life Speaks. That's it.